Randy Couture and Jay Glazer have transformed MMA athletics into one of their premier off-season training programs for all types of athletes. As you can see, we've arrived here in Toronto at Extreme Couture. Randy Couture's first true love, the sport of MMA, has gone global. We caught up with his son Ryan in our first installment of Open Guard. Does he feel the pressure of following in his father's footsteps?
And now, ladies and gentlemen, making his way to the red corner, he wears the blue trunks trimmed in white and stands 5 feet 10 inches tall. He weighed in at 155 and 1/2 pounds. He's a freestyle fighter representing Extreme Couture and fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Please welcome Ryan Couture.
I'm Ryan Couture, 2-0 professional mixed martial artist. I get asked a lot, actually, what it was like to grow up with Randy Couture as my dad, and really for most of my life, my childhood anyway, it was pretty much like any other kids. He was just wrestling at that point. You know, as I got older into high school and the sport started to take off, and he was competing a lot more in MMA and had kind of moved away from his wrestling background, you know, then people started to kind of know who he was and take an interest in the fact that he was my dad, and had all sorts of goofy questions, especially early on. You know, before people really got to know the sport, asking, you know, isn't that where one of the guys dies at the end and there's no rules at all and all that nonsense. You know, he's always, even as a little kid before he started fighting, been my idol and my role model. So, and I think he's been an awfully good one. So it's a great example to follow, and you know, not too many people I'd rather spend my time talking about than someone that I respect that much. I think there are a lot of expectations that people place on me to, you know, carry on the family name and live up to his legacy, and that's just not a type of pressure I've ever put on myself. I think that'd be unrealistic, honestly, with everything that he's accomplished. To expect to even halfway live up to that, I think would be silly. So I'm working very hard to be a legitimate athlete, and you know, I'm winning fights and doing what I need to do and passing the tests that are put in front of me. And you know, at the end of the day, the last name doesn't win the fights. It's the hard work that I put in the gym, and you know, as long as I keep doing the right things, then I'll carve out my own niche, and we'll see where I end up at the end of the career. People are always wondering, actually, if he pushed me towards MMA and if I'm competing because of any pressure that I felt from him, or if it's something he encouraged me to do. And he really just kind of left me to find my own path. And you know, obviously watching him forge his career and watching the sport grow along with his career made me a huge fan of the sport and gave me a deep appreciation for it. So through that, I became a very great fan of the sport and had that interest. And then I was about 25 when I first started training jiu-jitsu, and you know, really just thought it'd be a hobby at that point. Had always been kind of curious to try an MMA fight someday if I ever could develop the skills to where it would make sense. And the more I got into the training, the more I knew that I definitely had the skills to compete and at least give it a shot, but still never really saw it as a career option. But once I got in the cage for the first time and had my first competition, I was hooked, and I knew this is what I wanted to do for a career.
Hopefully there's no shadow. I think we figured this out a while ago through wrestling. And then I try to stay out of his way. He's developed his own passion for this. He does things his own way. Obviously, he trains with us at the gym. We use the same guys, the same staff, but he's got a much different style than I do.
A lot of people are very surprised when they see me fight that I'm not a you know, clincher and dirty boxer and a wrestler. You know, I'm not real dominant with my takedowns. I'm perfectly comfortable fighting off of my back, and you know, I kind of wish I did have that 30 years of international wrestling experience to draw on. I think it would make my life a lot easier in the ring, but you know, since I don't, I've had to find what works for me, and so far that's been my submission game, and I like to look for the finish with a submission rather than with ground and pound.
He's developed, he's his own man. I'm just excited for him. I think it's going to be great.
As far as being a coach or a trainer or any kind of a resource in the MMA world, he's really left it to me to come to him if I needed advice or if I needed help, rather than stepping in and potentially overstepping and stepping on my toes. So I definitely appreciate his approach to that, because I know he's there for me, and I never have any hesitation to ask him for help if I need it, but I never feel like he's, you know, getting in the way and meddling with what I want to do. He's really letting me sort of choose my own path and do it my own way.
I think we figured out how to work it now, and me staying out of the way. And if he comes to me, I'm more than happy to be a part of it. I have cornered him a couple times, but you know, I'm never his head corner man. I'm his head cheerleader.
Despite the fact that he's pushing 50, Dad's still a tough customer, and I pretty much resigned myself years ago to the fact that I'd never be able to kick his ass. So, so we get good work in, but he definitely gets the better of me.